Good morning. It's 9 a.m., Monday, August 15th, 2022. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First is to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is discussion and possible action authorizing the Muscatine County Historic Preservation Commission to apply for a CLG grant to support a reconnaissance survey of historic transportation facilities in Muscatine County with Historic Preservation Commission member Lynn Pruitt. Morning, Lynn.
Good morning, Scott. The County Board of Historic Preservation Commission has pretty well finished up our big project of the country's schools and churches. We've still got signs to put in the ground, but the study is all done. So we're wanting to embark on another study to look at the historic transportation features of the county, how it all developed, going back to days of the stagecoach and to ferries crossing rivers rather than bridges, and trains getting started and all of this. So we'd like to do that study. We've got a grant that is in draft form for a CLG grant, and it's in the amount of $21,000. There'd be a cash match of $3650 and in-kind services of $10,350, which would be our volunteer services, for a total project of $35,000. This is due in about 2 weeks, I think, but I'd appreciate your approval to go after that grant.
So what was the cash match, Lynn? 3,000, 3,700 something?
$3650.
3650, okay. I'd move the approval.
Second.
I got a motion by Jeff, a second by Santos. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
One question real quick, Lynn, when, if we apply for it, when would they have information on when we would have the approval, or if we were?
It takes a while. They give approvals in right around January of next year, and we would start work in February, March.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is items with Assistant County Engineer Brian Horowski. First is discussion and possible action to approve various utility permits. Morning, Brian.
Good morning. We have two utility permits today. The first is from McLeod USA Telecommunications Services of Little Rock, Arkansas. They are under the Windstream name. This permit, they request to install fiber along Moscow Road from Highway 6 to 122nd Street, and then on 122nd Street from Moscow Road east to Highway 38. Second is Lumen, formerly known as CenturyLink, of Davenport, Iowa. Lumen requests to bore telecommunication cable underneath 170th Street for a new house at 2842.
I'll move the approval.
Second. Motion by Jeff, second by Doug. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Project update.
Projects update, the 171st Street paving project. Last week, the dirt contractor worked on touching up dirt here, there, everywhere. They also worked on granular shoulders. This week, contractor plans to work on punch list items, and if it works out, potentially even doing some pavement markings. So that project is in the home stretch. The York Ave Bridge, last week, dirt contractor moved in equipment. This week, they hope to start working on the dirt work. Our local pavement markings project, which is advanced traffic control. They were in the county on Thursday and Friday of last week, painting. They plan to be back in the middle of this week. Our local pipe culverts, which is PCI, they've been getting a lot done. They're currently working on Vale Ave. They're about done with the dirt work there, and hopefully they'll pour back the pavement later this week. Early this week, they plan to also start on Cranston Ave, which is they're lining two pipes down there. And then potentially late this week, they'll start on 160th Street replacing a pipe culvert up there. So that's what I got for a project update.
Okay.
Brian, are we doing any work over on Highway 6? There's a bunch of cones all over the shoulders. Is that us or is that somebody else?
That would be the state. They have quite a few different projects going on up there. There's the bridge at Moscow Road.
I know that one.
Bridge deck
but-
overlay, and then they're working on Highway 6. That project has I don't know all the ins and outs, but I know that there's patching, microsurfacing, a couple pipe culverts that are getting replaced.
Okay,
So,
okay. All right, thank you.
yep.
Okay. Anything other? No? Okay, thank you very much. Next up is discussion with Conservation Director Kurt Weiss regarding his request for ARPA funding to run sewer and/or water services to Deep Lakes Park. Good morning, Kurt.
Good morning, Scott. I guess I'm here at your request, if you had questions on my,
Well, I can start out with a few of them. So looking at the map that you proposed, it runs across from Stewart Road up through Pettibone, crosses over 41st Street. So with what you have proposed, the area that's marked up is the proposed campground, right?
that's correct.
So then, would there be any connection moving to the south on that one to the existing cabins or to the potential other campground? I think that was gonna be further to the north of the current cabins.
Right, well, the original proposal was the campground was gonna be south of where the cabins were at. But with that flooding, you know, the groundwater flooding that we experienced several years ago, it was determined that we needed to move everything to the north end of the park. And so I think it's probably safe to say almost all the new development that's gonna happen down there is gonna be all north of where we currently have our cabins. The only
Strictly
other-
because of the elevation, correct, Kurt?
That's correct, yeah, because that did not flood, was not even close to flooding. So, just makes sense to move it up to an area that we don't have to worry about water. We have that in all our campgrounds right now, that we have to worry about high water, so I'm gonna get away from that. And I do not see it needing to be down connected. We currently have a good sanitation system for our 4 cabins that we have, and we have a good water supply. It just, if we would add more, then, you know, that would be a concern. So I think even adding more cabins would probably be, all locations would all be north of where the current cabins are at.
So with that proposal of what you're doing, so if we're running from across 41st Street over to Stewart Road, that connection that you have in the red, that's connecting to railroad tracks, is that, or is it right close to the railroad tracks, is that correct, or is that Stewart Road?
That would be Stewart Road. It would, the proposal that originally was done by Bolton Mink and then was updated, cost updated by the city engineer, was to run it essentially from where the connection ends, which is up kind of by the gas station that's on Stewart Road, and bring it down Pettibone and then across. So that's what the proposal, and that's what the cost estimates are for.
So my question is, so it passes Stewart Road, but it continues on 41st Street. What is it connecting to on 41st Street? Is there a existing sewer? Is there an existing water? What is there?
There is nothing, it would just go over to where it would enter into our campground. Is that what you're talking about?
No, my question is you have the positive alternative route that kind of goes over there?
It has to connect on
If you
41st at the
here,
railroad tracks, is
At
that
that
right?
point,
That, okay,
is the
that,
alternative.
that would
This
be,
was the proposed.
yeah, I'm the one is a
Proposed
proposal.
point, alternative
with-
to that
what you're
point.
saying.
See it?
Okay, all
I
right.
met with the city staff. My understanding is there is also a main sewer line going down those railroad tracks that are on 41st Street.
I see.
That could be a possible alternative route coming in and not
For
bringing
sewer.
it down Pettibone and over.
That's interesting because that is where their main is at.
Where does that drain to? The one by the railroad tracks?
That would all go back to the,
It's a force main, probably.
the
It's a
force
force main, but I think that's also a main water header right alongside that area too. I think that's because that's where the well fields is at.
Yeah. and it must go down and service, you know,
That
just
may
north of
be easier for
Fruitland.
easements though too, instead of getting all that stuff through Pettibone.
Doesn't look like it's as long either.
No, I think it's actually a little bit shorter.
It looks that way.
Yeah, I left some calls, but I never received any callbacks from John Cook and Pat Lynch with the city, just to make sure that I was correct on that understanding when I met with them. But that is a possible alternative to come in, I believe.
Interesting. So, in your request, you also had a discussion for the 3-inch that was being proposed as the maximum that we would see, because I believe you have what sites we have comparatively to other campgrounds. In your proposal of that campground, would that be us kind of thinking, hey, this is long-term, you know,
That-
our biggest amount of campsites is gonna be 150?
They sized it for 75 campsites plus some cabins is what it was sized for. The original proposal was to Bolton Mink, and that's what the city engineer just updated that. And right now, we have Bolton Mink give us just initial assessment of a campground at the north end for 50 sites. And I think that's what you'd originally, you know, what we would probably go with to begin with. That area is big enough, you could put 150 sites in there if you wanted.
On the
but
one that you got right there, that's
Yeah.
the highlighted one?
Yeah.
Wow,
You
okay.
would keep bringing it down from there, but yeah.
Just went farther down. is what it
Do you
is.
think that that would be, that there's business for that? If you had 150 sites, do you think you could rent them?
Probably right now you might be able to, but I think that's something you would want to slowly move into and assess it as you go on. I think 50 sites would be no problem renting those, the way things are going. And I also gave you some information on what other counties have got, you know, what I mean, you know, they've got larger populations up there, but you look at Scott County Park has 250 plus sites just at that one park. You know, one of the other things you look at comparing our campgrounds, right now camping's on an upswing. And, you know, you go to statewide and everybody, you know, can't have enough campsites on a weekend. You know, weekdays there are not as many, but the weekends they fill up. One of the things that the advantage to this site would be over all the other campgrounds in Muscatine County is it won't flood. You know, all the other campsites in Muscatine County are susceptible to flooding. So, you know, Mississippi's up, we lose all the campsites along the river. The two Corps of Engineers and Fairport. And Cedar River's flooding, we lose Salisbury. So that would be an advantage for this.
Did Bolton Meat then take elevation shots for all this? Do we have a plan of what they had for a drawing that says, hey, this is the elevation at 550 or something for you to say that?
We would have that,
They
yeah.
have that, okay.
Yeah.
Because that, I mean, when you say not flooding, that's shocking that would be.
Well, if,
so-
you know,
so-
if the levee breaks, it'll flood.
Well, correct. Yeah, but I
Well,
mean,
all I know is from what we had before, there was no water even close to
In
that
these
area
areas.
up there.
Okay.
But we would have elevations for that.
And of course, you're speaking about the seep water, correct?
That's right, that was all seep water.
And is Pettibone, it's always south of 41st quite a ways. It's almost down around, 49th, where we start seeing water over the road, is that right? Quite a ways south of the.
Fifth, yeah.
Down towards mid,
57th Street.
yeah.
so do we have to have water?
Well, we have two choices on water. We either bring it in with the city or we drill our own wells. And Power and Water says that they would be willing to work with this. My original concern on drilling our own wells is once we start dealing with something that large, we then go to public water supply through the DNR. And then I'd have to have, or where if we could work with Power and Water, you'd have to have somebody certified for testing that water, you know, on a daily basis and,
Yeah.
you know, possibly chlorinating it and those sorts of things. I was just concerned with our small staff.
No,
we have one person,
So
but,
my concern was just the proposed cost associated with that versus us having that discussion with MPW.
Yeah.
If we're excavating, for example, I like the 41st going over, option. But so I strongly believe there is a header that runs right alongside the west side of those tracks. I think it's one of the main headers that they have. I think it's a 30 or 36 inch.
And on your picture here, and maybe Eric, this might be partly you, is that the big warehouse they added down there on that, between 41st and 49th on the other side of the tracks? What does the comprehensive plan say about that block of land, 41st to 49th? I mean, what's the anticipated long-term use of that?
Heavy industrial.
It's heavy industrial?
Yeah.
and I think one of the other reasons, I got backing up a little bit, that they were going down, showing it going down Pettibone, we originally was bringing it all the way down to our entrance, where the beach is at, and bringing it in that way, the service, the south end of the park. Now, if we're just looking at doing the north end, to me, it makes more sense coming over on 41st Street, but we would just have to check
See,
with the
that's
city and
what-
Power and
that's what
Water
we
to
were-
make sure that that works.
I thought you guys were turning all the way around up there, around 49th Street or something around that area. I thought you guys were turning into the existing campsites, providing water for the swimmers, whatnot.
The current facilities at the beach facility down there that's all
49th
working
Street.
adequately?
Yeah, we'll be able to work with that without city sewer and water. The only thing that in the future, and I brought that up to our board, and I think it's something that you can't hardly justify bringing sewer and water all the way down that far, is it would have an impact. It's not saying it couldn't be done, but it could have an impact if there's ever a big enough demand for, a shower house change out, at the beach area, but, we're looking at, plans are moving forward with a maintenance building down at that entrance area. We're looking at doing our own small well and a septic system for, to be a restroom in the maintenance building for staff. And that's something that we spoke with Eric, and, not gonna be a big deal. We got 2 or 3 staff people that'll be using it, so it's not.
Right down there by the beach area.
It
by
would
that
be
parking.
south of the beach area,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's where we don't, and the cabins are taken care of. We don't really need sewer and water run down that far, so why run it that much further if we don't need
If you
it?
if you had a shower house change out at the beach area, would that, trigger the public water supply as well?
Yeah, it would, because essentially the threshold is 25 people using it on a 60-day period or something like that, which our cabins fall under that, because we can't handle even 25 people at the cabins. Even by adding the maintenance building, we still will be under that, but once you add, we can't add a drinking fountain down there at the cabins, because if we'd put a drinking fountain in, it would service over 25 people on an average of 60 days. So, that's why you don't see outside drinking water and things like that offered at the cabins. It's just inside the cabins, so
And
we don't
that's-
trigger that.
That triggers water only, it does not deal with sewer. So, like a shower house, it's conceivable if you had water to the area. Cause in my mind, water lines are much less expensive to run than sewer lines, typically.
So
But
we have to take.
to Santos's point, half of it's digging, so.
On wastewater, we can permit up to 1,500 gallons per day of facility flow. So depending on the use, we'd have to run some numbers, how many people are taking showers, the code has assumed gallons per day per.
The DNR is gonna wanna know how much you put in there, like
Right.
how many people are actually gonna be there, and then a known
But
potential
there is,
use
you can still
average.
do on-site wastewater treatment, the question is, can it be locally permitted, or is it through DNR wastewater?
Yeah.
Which is,
I just know that, every time I've been by this summer down to the beach area, it's just getting
It's
tremendous
full.
use there.
It's full, like, I
It's
would love to
become a
wanna know
real-
how much we're using that, cause it
Yeah.
seems like it's always getting.
And if you could go with a shower facility, you could even do just, the main thing we're getting is people wanna rinse off. You know, they don't want full-blown showers, they just wanna rinse off, get the sand off them before they get into their vehicles. So something like that, I think, would be easily be permitted because of, you know, it's gray water. So if it goes into a system, we're not really concerned about that, contaminating anything and letting it out.
So,
We would still keep our restrooms the way they are.
okay, so I have a question, and so then in this proposed, which I really think is something more interesting for me, is do we have an estimate for the proposed on the 41st Street
No.
running?
No.
Okay. So how long would that take? Would that be just a couple phone calls or a couple
I'd
discussions?
find
'Cause
out,
I'm sure
that's
it's
what-
probably,
Yeah,
you know,
get
square
a hold of Pat
foot.
with the, you know, the city engineer and find out if he could just kinda
And
give
then I
us some
think,
rough numbers.
I think if we were to do that path, I think what I'd also would like to see is maybe wherever we end, for example, if the campground is the end site, we leave a branch connection with a valve, kind of tee in both ways, one going to the campground and one for the future use potential. So then if there is funding down the road and you would want to go back up to the campsites, we could still then connect to there.
Okay.
Yeah, that just.
But you're talking future use for the park only?
Yes.
Yeah.
For the park only, that's the key thing that I'm
Yeah,
still
well, that's
concerned
what I mean.
you
It
know.
is sized for the park only. We are not sizing it for anybody else to be.
No,
added
no,
on.
I'm just saying, if we were to even, if you were, for example, if you go to the campground and you're moving to the south, maybe leave an extra valve or two there for future connections, or another future cabin, or another future
Right.
campsite.
I think that goes without saying, that's
just
how you
kind of,
plumb it.
You know,
Yeah.
how you
It's-
wanna have those connections is just what I was thinking out loud.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I think the bigger conversation here is, and that was my question about that 41st to 49th. You know, I believe that the industrial park for the city is pretty much sold out and built out. And I don't know if they have future plans for any more expansion of industrial park. But, you know, if you started to put, if we in the city partnered and had access, you know, had facilities going by there, that may be a logical expansion for their industrial park. But it shouldn't be on the taxpayer dollar, on the county taxpayer dollar.
No, I
I think
just,
that's the question, is, you know, what is the city's long-term plan here?
I think when we have those conversations, if we were to say, hey, we're proposing a 3-inch line, and then if they were to say, hey, we're really interested, I think that's a great fix, what if we would go to 12? You know, well, and then we help pay for that offset or whatever, then it's just us having that, again, my opinion, the MOU with them in regards to what we're doing it for, and what the purpose for it of it is on the long-term concerns around annexation.
Yeah, I agree.
So, can we get those numbers, and then we probably have those proposals, and then bring those back to Nancy and our group, and then we could have those discussions. I would propose the 41st, and then we could also look at, is the header connection right there, because I'm almost positive there's a big header, because that's right off the well field. But I think it's on the other side of the tracks. On the west side of the tracks, I think it's the 36 or the 30, I can't remember the size of that ductile pipe that runs through there.
I could do that.
That's all I have. I don't know if there's any other questions.
It certainly appears to me, as I scaled it out, that it's quite a bit shorter, the distance. And it's not as busy going that direction, shall I say.
And there'd be, I think you have at least 2 railroad crossings coming down the Stewart roadway. At least one. I guess you'd have one over on 41st too, get across that railroad track.
You're saying it's quite a bit shorter in your mind coming down Pettibone?
It appears that way to me.
41st,
No, coming down 41st and coming down Pettibone.
Right.
he's saying.
It's longer coming from Dick Drake Way
Yeah.
down Stewart, drop down Pettibone, drop across 41st, as opposed to just 41st across.
In that section of Pettibone, Keith and I were talking briefly, there could be some serious challenges trying to excavate long sections of Pettibone there that
Oh,
may not be ideal. There's very little shoulder, there's steep banks, you got sand, a lot of sand, there's water right up to the road in places. That would be challenging. I think looking at that 41st route would definitely be
Yeah.
the way to go.
I agree. I think it would also,
Challenges of the railroads alone,
Cross that at least twice.
Yeah.
Maybe.
they have to sign off on that, correct? They go under their grades.
It actually looks a tiny bit longer. I mean, a couple 100 feet longer to 41st if I do it on Beacon, but I mean, it's 200 feet different. And I agree with you about the busyness aspect of it.
Like I said, I think Bolton Mink was the original one that did it. They were doing it because we were looking at going all the way down. At that time, we weren't even looking going over on 41st Street. It was going straight down
Right.
to our entrance on Pettibone, so that made the most sense than to
Sure.
bring it all the way across and turn. But I think now that we're halfway over on 41st Street,
Mother Nature kinda made us rethink this, didn't they?
they did. It was a good thing.
yeah. I didn't know they had sewer around that area, but it'd be interesting to see what they come back with. I knew they had water, but I didn't know they had sewer close to there, so.
Okay,
All right. We'll get those.
any other questions for Kurt? No, very good. Kurt, thank you so much. Next up is discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the August 8th, 2022 regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Santos, second by Jeff. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Correspondence. Jeff, you got anything?
Nothing to note.
Nathan?
So let's see. I got, I think we all got an email forwarded, that Doug had forwarded for Becky Allgood about the makerspace at the Wilton Public Library. We got an email about Nancy reminding us of the September 27th joint council meeting. Eric had said some stuff about the Lower Cedar watershed. I got an email from Phyllis Wood at the Muscatine Valley Workforce Development Board. I can never remember that whole thing. It's a mouthful.
Mississippi Valley.
Mississippi, there we go. That's why I can't remember because I say it wrong. Mississippi Valley Workforce Development Board about getting $17,500 in ticket to work funds and communication about how we might want to allocate those.
Okay. I had those assorted emails as well, but nothing else to note. Santos?
Yeah, it's the same emails. I think the only thing I had gotten, 2 calls on 2 different businesses that wanted to open up and I followed up with, just forward them to the chamber information and who to contact. They didn't know what to do or what steps to take to try to open up 2 different types of businesses, so.
Okay. Doug?
I had the email from Becky Allgood on the Makerspace after hours for Wednesday, August 24th from 5 to 7 at the Wilton Public Library. And this Saturday, the 20th, is the Hawker Trucking Super Late Models at West Liberty. So hopefully we'll have a good crowd at that.
Okay. Okay. How about any committee reports, Doug?
No, I have none.
Santos?
I had the business development with West Liberty quarterly meeting that we have, on Friday.
Okay. I had nothing. Nathan?
I had the District 7 Correctional Board meeting on Friday the 12th. We got a good bill of review from our accreditation consultants, and that person said that we are exceeding benchmarks by a substantial amount and gave us a very positive review.
Okay. Jeff, you have anything?
Had no committee meetings.
Okay. Next up are items with the administration office. Discussion and possible action to approve a staffing request for the county attorney's office.
There was a memo in your packet kind of explaining this. Essentially, Jim had requested and we had included funding for an additional support staff for his office for this fiscal year. After having some more in-depth looks at kind of how that office flows and what works there, Jim is instead proposing to advance one of the current legal secretaries to an office coordinator position to kind of manage the rest of the support staff and delegate work, and then they would continue to do the work they do now, as opposed to adding another person.
I'm all for promoting from within.
I'll move to approve.
Second. No, go ahead.
Motion by Jeff, second by Santos, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Passes. Next is action to approve a revised jail commissionary expenditure policy.
As you may recall, a few weeks ago, the board approved an additional commissary food service worker position, whose primary job would be to help with commissary, and then they could be used in the kitchen as needed. We just need to amend the expenditure policy to reflect that what we're paying for that person's wages and benefits out of the commissary fund.
Yep, I'll move the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Santos, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion passes. Anything other, Nancy?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, thank you. Next is receive information from county employees. Do I have any county employees that wish to address the board currently? Seeing no one come forward. Receive information, or I'm sorry, receive comments from the public. Do I have anyone from the public that wishes to address the board? Seeing no one come forward, it is 9:32 and we are adjourned.